Hello and welcome to the Stampscapes lab. We're going to finish off these three back to, I don't know, the mid-90s scenes here. They are just made with glossy cardstock and dye-based inks, which is basically what was available at that time. But, you know, I've come to utilize other things with my scenes, even if it's in this dye-based ink glossy cardstock format, sequencing, I don't know, whatever, formula. And that includes things like, some alcohol pens, along with some other stamps. I just wanted to use the stamps that were available at that time that I had in the Stampscapes line to do these pieces. And let's see, let's get to it. So these pieces right here, they make a pretty strong statement in terms of, you know, mood and I guess lighting in here by establishing just, you know, basically it's kind of a light source and it's usually towards the center of the scene somewhere, and it's just kind of darker on the perimeter like that. But it's areas like this at the base of these trees that we really needed some additional texture. So after doing my initial set of designs, I came out with little things like these rocks or grass textures like this that really could add a lot to these pieces. It's adding a lot, but it's also kind of subtle, you know. I mean, us as rubber stampers will notice these types of things, or scenic stampers, but if you give cards to someone that just, you know, that doesn't stamp or anything like that, I don't think they're going to be saying, oh, wait, you know, we're missing some texture down here, or something like that. But for me, things like these additional textures really kind of add some really good opportunities for things like highlighting and shadow work and, I don't know, all those fun types of things. So some of the sedge filler at the base right there to turn the texture down here into something different than just the texture up here in, I don't know what that represents, the sky or just background in general. That was just done in the green here. And then let's add some additional textures with some little rocks here. And that really grounds the imagery in a nice foundation of, I don't know, what forest floor textures, I guess. Okay. Hello, Linda, Candy, and Sandy. How are you? These pieces, you know, had to get addressed, as I knew they would, because I can't leave them like that. They just, you know, compared to what I do these days, these pieces right here just weren't, you know, they're not complete. From a mostly from a textural standpoint, from a lighting standpoint, I think they're fine, but I really need to add in, you know, some of that textural range with some soft lighting in there, mainly the white pigment ink. But also, I mean, I really want to add in some shadows in here. Okay, so the trees are already kind of interior lit like this, you know, from not doing anything. But let's add in some additional shadow work and, oh, just some richness into the color scheme. It's just those emerald green tones in here, but let's add in some brown tones in here and make the trees look a little bit more earthy. I don't want to make them too dark, I don't think, because it seems like it has a decent, you know, amount of light on there. So some different browns here, and then a kind of an olive green looking tone. I used the grass under the buck to add a little grass texture. Yeah, that's a good place to do it, just underneath any type of animal. Unless they're in like dirt or something like that, you know, with a hard floor. It's almost, I almost use it in the sedge filler just about everything. The only kind of variation that I'll do is if I have a lot of area down below, like more surface area, I'll probably throw in like one of the taller grasses textures in addition to the sedge filler. So there's a little bit of scale changes within that texturing up front there. Okay, so let me see. This is, let's say like a brownish gray, I think it is. So this is a way to go in and it's adding lighting, but it's also adding kind of an opacity. And it's a hue change too. Going into this with a little bit of this brownish tinge. So it's a little bit more refined right here. It's not, I mean, it separates those trees from the background, but I feel that the trees are still integrated because all of that background color is in the trees as well. So let's add some of this down here in this, this shadowy grass area like that. Coming down like that. Hello, Megan. Ooh, I thought that was going to go out of focus there. Okay, so let's see. Always test my colors to see how dark it is right there. So I'll add that on the side of the tree. That's in a little bit more of the shadow area, meaning the right side of the right tree. And we'll do the left side of the trees on the left of the scene. More specifically, it's to the left of the light source. Okay. If the light source was coming like over here and streaming across, then of course I would do the opposite side of the trees. They would all be kind of right side shaded. Okay, and this one right here, I might shade from the top down like this. And, they're kind of the lighter areas right down here, so I might just kind of make it a little bit darker and a little bit lighter here. So it's like top down, dark light, but it's also left to right, dark to light, okay? So I can just go kind of like in this area right here. And this trunk is a little bit farther away, so same thing with this one right here. We'll go kind of top down, but I'll leave the bottom part of it a little bit illuminated. Maybe I'll get a little bit in there. Something like that. See, it's kind of anchoring it a little bit, and then let's go into the shadow area again, like this. I could put some shadow on that, that deer right there too. That's getting a little heavy in there, so we'll kind of blend that out. A little bit more of a warmer brown, okay. I don't necessarily want that brown in there, but I just want some incarnation of brown that's merging or blending optically, not physically, with the greens that are underneath it. Remember, alcohol inks are transparent, so the colors underneath should usually influence what you see. All right, see, it looks better, having those trees with a certain, a little bit of a different tone from just the grass. All right, let's see. I think that's all I need. I don't think I want to go any more on those trees right there, but let me go in with this pretty light, bright green, and I'll just kind of blend this out. Going in with kind of a brighter light green shouldn't darken it. I don't know, it might make it a little bit more intense in here though, but sometimes the most intense colors are in the shadows because, they're not being washed out by the light that's shining on them if it's a really bright light. All right, here's a little bit of a dull green like this, just to kind of blend that out a little bit more. About like so. And I think that's what this one needed in terms of colors and shadows. So we'll add more atmosphere to this one later. I'm trying to think if I want any other kind of overhanging limbs in here. It would kind of soften up the top part, but I don't think it really needs it. Okay, so let's do the same thing with this. We're going to go with, you know, different colors than this because this is a different color scheme. So violet tones, blues, grays maybe. Let's see here. I think something like this should do it, I'm guessing. Like that. I don't have a huge range of blue tones in between like something like these right here and like this one right here. This one would be okay, but it's a little bit too bright. If it was a dull, if it, as far as intensity, blue, that would work right in here in the base of the rocks. But let's just try these ones out and see if these will do. I so wanted to add color like you're doing now, but stayed true to 90. You can add it now though, Candy. Add it after. So we're going now. We're adding this now. We've gone from like 90, mid 90s now to whatever. Was it 2000 or so? I forget what I was speculating on with the alcohol inks. I distinctly remember when like Copics, everyone started using Copics because I saw them. They were being used, and then it's like, that was like a company that just never, you didn't see those markers at the, I think it was CHA at the time. It might have still been HIA, the Home Hobby something Association, but it didn't change to CHA. But they didn't used to go to those shows, but then I saw them with a, you know, pretty decent sized booth at one show. It's like, oh, you know, like the crafters are using our pens now, you know, and we're selling a lot of those, so we better go and do these shows now. Okay, let's see. I think they were right next to the PSX booth too, somewhere. It's probably Anaheim, I'm guessing. All right, so that was a little bit of violet, and I did them at the base of these rocks and also in that water right down there, and then the kind of right underneath these characters right here in the boat. And then I added some shading onto this ledge stamp right here in the foreground. There's not too much of it. It's just kind of like a peekaboo usage of that ledge stamp just for a little bit of foreground down here to, I don't know, whatever, plant those trees on. Okay, so I'm going into this with some pink. I'm kind of going mostly over that blue though. I don't necessarily want this tone of pink on here. I mean, you could, but it's mostly kind of just blending a little bit more of that tone in there. All right, and a little bit brighter tones in the shadows. I guess I can use these ones for this one too. And this is gray. All right, so some of it's glowing pretty good. I'm kind of deciding if I like that kind of intensity of that pink. It's not super intense, but it's pretty bright for this piece right here that doesn't have a lot of bright tones in it. But let's see. I think I'm going to knock it down with gray here. So kind of just adding this in the same areas that I used that pink and violet. This is just like a, I don't know, it's like a 50% gray maybe. So just kind of layering it and making the rocks seem a little bit more dimensional. Okay, and let's see. Let me see what this blue does or doesn't do. Okay, this blue of mine is super, super dry. I'll store it upside down. These aren't refillable. These Le Plumes, I think they've been discontinued too. I think Marvy's discontinuing all their inks, pens, everything. All right, so there was a little bit of bluish tones in there. That's, I don't know, I just kind of used it to blend in a little bit. And let's see, let's leave that one at that. So just a little bit more of a rounding of forms in here. I didn't add too much of a shadow area down here. I thought that might get a little bit darker, but it's already fairly dark. And let me take a look here. Let's go for a little bit more of that gray. All right, something like that. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's probably 5% darker. Okay, so on this right here, oh yeah, I was gonna grab a like a word stamp. This is like a perfect spot for a word stamp. I should do that first, actually. You should stamp your word stamps first rather than, you know, having a bunch of like overhanging tree limbs or something like that, because you don't want to cover up your word stamps with imagery and foliage or something like that. All right. Okay, so a little bit of brownish tinges for that cabin in there. Oh, Cynthia, what else does Marby sell if inks and markers are discontinued? I think that Uchida, I think that was just a small part of their line, candy. It's what the crafters used of theirs, but like these mats here, these self-healing mats, they have all kinds of other kind of like gift store types of products, kind of for the mass public consumers, you know. We're kind of like specific hobbyists, you know, and in the stamping world, okay. And that was a decent part of their operations, you know, their colors. They'd go to, you know, CHA and HIA and stuff like that and have a decent presence there with, you know, demonstrations and a large booth and everything like that. But when you look at their website, or just Uchida in general, not just Marvy, I think Marvy was, you know, Marvy's a line under the Uchida main brand. It was just a kind of a small portion of what they do. I don't know, like, specifically what they have these days. I mean, because, you know, because I don't really look at it. But I have ordered, oh, I think this mat is this green mat here is Uchida one, and, you know, they have, like, things like those, like, jelly roll pens, you know, stuff like that, oh, I don't know, maybe kids would get, you know, general markers that you would see in stores. Maybe not like stationary stores or something like that, or that could be, but if you look at like pen sites, like, I don't know, whatever, Jet Pens or something like that, I think you'll see some of that, those Marvy types of products. Kind of more mass public types of products, you know, which is it's probably their bread and butter, not kind of niche, kind of hobby types of things like you know, for the stamper, or you know, before it was for the scrapbooker. That's why too. I mean, they'd been around for a long time, but they didn't really come out with those pads for you know, several years after the first rubber stamp pads were out there, the raised die base pads. Marby took their time in doing that. You know, because it wasn't really a priority, and that's why a lot of people didn't think about Marvy when their pads came out, because they were already buying other types of pads that were getting promoted more from other pad companies. You know, it was the hot new thing, and you know, anytime some new pad lines were coming out, you know, you'd see them in stamp stores. And I knew this because I used to travel around and teach at a lot of these different stamp stores, and almost, I wouldn't say none, but the places that I went and taught at, I would say 90% of them did not carry Marvy pads, but they did after I left there because they loved them, and the inks were just so vibrant. And the cases were always cool. They were stackable and everything like that. But yeah, they were just kind of a lost thing. They weren't advertising. They didn't have, I don't know, whatever, design teams and all that stuff, and you know, whatever, designer lines or something like that. But they were always the best inks. They just weren't, you know, they didn't. It wasn't a big thrust with them, you know, at all, to really do a lot of promotion of that, you know, outside of like CHA. You know, you just didn't see that really be. Maybe there might be like one ad in Rubber Stamp Madness or something like that, but that was about it. I'm talking about this a lot because I've thought about it a lot over the years, you know, about how, you know, Marvy, the quality of the inks were just way superior to any other brand out there, and they still are. But they just, you know, I don't know. It just wasn't really their thing, you know, to take the time to really kind of promote it. And I think it's because they had a, you know, like, I don't know, 1,000 other products out there, and it was just one part of their line. All right, so a little bit of shading, or a lot of shading in here. A lot of kind of like small little shading things in here. So I've laid down some of that darker violet in the shadow areas here. I'm going to try to blend some of it out a little bit with this kind of lighter pink. It looks kind of brighter though as I'm doing this right here, but maybe it isn't. I think it's just that I'm laying it down over the top of the other ink that's already been laid down, and I think it's kind of reinvigorating it. Spray sealing it'll, you know, this will be much more intense. This kind of dried to like a dull sheen, but you can see it's just a lot brighter down here. It's because I've just gone over it with the alcohol pen. So, all right, so this little mill up here has a little bit of a brownish tinge to it, and I've left the roof. There's a little bit of color on it, but let's see. Let's warm up this a little bit. See this really dull. I don't know, whatever, peach, beige, whatever you call it. Let's warm up this base area a little bit with that. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of a warmer temperature right there now. Let's go in here too. All right. Let's see here. Actually, this, with those birds here, I went and put a word stamp up here. They're already kind of a focal point right there. But, let me see. Oh, this, anything can go up here practically. This one says road in it, so I'd like to use that one with a road. This one has gold ink on it, so maybe I won't use that. Because I'd have to clean it off. Okay, so here, I always use this one when there's kind of like, or I use this one a lot when there's kind of wild colors in the, in the design here. So nature always wears the colors of the spirit. All right, so looks like I used that in white last time. Hopefully there's not too much white pigment ink residue on there. I think we should be okay. Okay. All right, forgive my head here. Pardon my head. Getting in your way. Okay. Go with that. And let's add in some additional. I have other sizes of blocks, but I just went and washed them. They were all dusty, so I'm gonna go with a block that's like way too big for this stamp here, but and these are just dye-based inks I'm using here. My tack and peel's like grabbing my paper here. So here's my question to everyone. Has there been like some kind of media out there that that was from just some company that's discontinued, or I don't know, whatever, the company is not around? So the Marvy, I mean, the Marvy, you can still get them, okay? You can still get these pads and inks. So they're still out there. But like for me, it's the color box stylus tools. I do miss using those. I could still use them because I have them, but I don't like to use them in these videos. You know, it's like, okay, we're going to be, applying, the inks with the color box stylus tool, oval foam tip here, which you can't get anymore. But something like that I miss. I'll miss the Marvy pads eventually. I'll have to move on to something else. But luckily, there's still some really excellent inks out there. Many of which I've been using all along, Like Memento, they're not as good as Marvy. But the one thing about the Mementos is that they're supposedly non-fading, all right? That's pretty big, if you're sending stuff out to people, and they have your piece on display, it's on a refrigerator or something like that. I don't know. I've always been curious about that though, because it seems like if you have it out, some colors exposed to light for a long time and dye-based inks, I gotta think that they would fade, but I don't know, they're supposedly non-fading, so I don't know, I've always been kind of curious about that one. All right, let's add in some extra texturing in here, and this is the thing that I thought these things these pieces really could use just for a pretty significant looking kind of textural change or textural addition. So in the mid 90s, you know, we didn't have pigment inks. I don't know when those came out. They maybe they came out in the mid 90s, but kind of the latter mid 90s, you know, the late 90s for sure. And I think it was ClearSnap that made them as the first. I don't know if anyone else was making them at the time. I don't know, Hero Arts or something. I don't know about that. I don't know if Hero Arts was in the like the media, you know, something beyond the stamps themselves at that time. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't remember. Does anyone remember that? Hello, Jeannie. Uh-oh. Watching me on the big screen TV. That's scary. It's a scary thought for me. All right, so let's go in here. And this white pigment ink is going to work right in here for sure because it's there. I left a little bit of that white showing in there, okay? So let's push those trees back in space, as they call it. Not in outer space, but in terms of distance, like this, okay? And I'll do it a little bit, you know, not uniformly, okay? So it's a little bit, you know, some of these trees are a little bit darker. So I've kind of put it right here and here. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should have left it a little bit lighter or darker there. I don't know, it seems kind of weird with that one right in the middle like that. I don't know. Here, I'll do it. I'll add some at the base of it like that. So it's a little bit darker up top and a little bit lighter in the base. But that push, to me, that really pushes back the distance of those trees into the background. Okay, so it's a little bit lighter right here too. Let's do this right here. Let's just add this really lightly like that. And let's add a little bit of this kind of surface level mist right along that shoreline. So now we have a varied shoreline. It's darker, it's lighter, it's darker, lighter, it's sharper, softer, you know. Let me see, let me transition that a little bit more. Also removed a little bit right there. You see that right around in here? See, I did this whole part in white right here. Here, let me kind of emphasize that a little bit more. And I'll go like that. I'll go a little bit more right there. But then see this side right here. I mean, I like that right there, but let's just put a little bit right in here. So it's going from kind of soft to crisp to soft again right there. You sacrifice some of your shadow work, yeah, but, you know. But then you add some illumination and texture and kind of atmosphere in there, like that. And let's do a little bit right around here. It's kind of dark down here for that, but there's a little bit of that lighter area. And I can see if it'll work or not. If I don't like it, I can just kind of wipe it off and, you know, no big deal. See this right here? I just kind of put a little bit right there, so it's going from a little bit of mist or softness and light to darker and crisp right up front there. So what this does is it kind of puts them in the same type of whatever lighting environment as the background. So this is kind of in the foreground right here. It's kind of mid-ground because we do have the trees right here, but it's really the closest thing that we're going to be kind of looking at. So you've given them something in common with those background trees in there. So it's creating textural continuity in here. Okay, so these birds are in here, they're just the standard V formation. And, you know, if I want to put some of this on like a couple of these birds right in here. It'll just change the value scheme just from uniformity to, oh, these ones right underneath here. I don't want to make them like super light. But you can make them a little bit lighter just to add a little bit of richness to that. I mean, it's really subtle. And sometimes I do that, like if it's like one eagle up there, I'll just do it on like one wing or something like that. So it's like the wing is catching the light. All right, so we have that in the background right here and here. The foreground right there. Okay. Now right in here, I don't know, my application of, I don't know, one of those pinks was a little bit rough. So let's soften and remedy that. I'm telling you, if you don't do this white pigment ink, you're missing out on. You're not utilizing a potential kind of, you know, technique remedy, you know, that can change. I don't know, kind of some rougher areas into something, you know, that looks, you know, pretty good. You know, it's like the, what is it? The opposite of emphasis. You know, you're kind of subduing, you know, some things that, you know, you don't want your viewer to kind of see, or really maybe for ourselves to see, you know, even more so. Okay, so this ink is going on a little bit differently over some of my alcohol ink in there. I'm going to put a little bit more of this pigment ink in there, a little bit thicker. It's like adhering to the bare page, but I think where I put some of that alcohol ink, it's not really sticking. So I'm building that up a little bit more. And then when I spray seal it, it'll kind of knock it back a little bit. Okay, so the lighting is right in here. Let's do the same thing that we did on the Lakeside Cove on some of these trees in here. So this is like a uniform type of tree line right here in terms of the values. I mean, it's all, you know, one mono value. It's all just black. Okay, so you can come in here like this. And if those trees are against something that's kind of lighter, seems like right here, I put some right here and right here, none right there, just so it kind of varies it a little bit. It's doing this push-pull type thing because when you put some of this white pigment ink over a couple of the trees, it pushes those trees back visually. All right, now we'll bring some of this into the foreground right here. I always do this with structures, be it cabins or mills or I don't know, whatever types of, you know, covered bridges, but I like having that kind of, that haze right in there. It's almost like it's coming out of the mill. That's a little bit too much, huh? Let's see, let's knock it back a little bit like that. Here, let's oscillate it a little bit more. It was like all right there. Now I'll just put it right there. And there's a little bit right over here. So let's do the same thing right down here. So it's like a path of this kind of misty light right here. Or, I don't know, misty texture. Something like that. I want to come over here, but I'd be going right over the tops of these trees right here. You know, if I was using this before, if I knew I was going to do this in here, I would have done the mist first, and then you stamp these limbs right over the top of it so that these would be nice and dark against something light and misty underneath it. But we were back in '93, though, when I did this. From a technique standpoint, at least. All right. So let's see here. I got a little impression of this tree right here. I don't know. I don't know. Was that already in there, or did that happen? I don't think that happened today. Or did it? I don't know if I might have touched it with this tack and peel right here, and then it printed right there. So, that being said, I'll just knock it back a little bit with some white pigment ink like that. Okay, there's a little bit more in there, but so be it. All right, a little bit more on these clouds to lighten them up. This could even be, you know what we can do here is we can do one of those light beam types of things coming out of there. That might be kind of interesting. Definitely wasn't doing anything like that, you know, in the 90s. I don't know when the first time I did those light beams was. I think it was just a few years ago, 3 years ago maybe. Crepuscular rays. All right, so we have that. Yeah, let me see. I want a little bit more lighting right in there. I think that looks okay, like that. I might want to add in those rays, though. All right, right in here. This is pretty dark down here, so I don't know how much I'll add of this one, but let's add it right at the base of the leafless limbs right in there in the distance. Amazon is still selling blank ink pads, if anyone is interested. Wait a minute, are you talking about the Marvy blank ink pads, Linda? If that is the case, that really astounds me. Because I didn't remember ever seeing them on there. I didn't bother looking. Unless you're just talking about like a generic pad. Glad you like the tweaks, Linda. Yeah, we really needed it in here. Okay, let's see here. Kind of putting it at the base of this, but some of it is going right in front of this tree, but I think that looks pretty good. Let's add it right in here. I like it. You ever see like a cloud coming over a mountain or something like that? It looks like a waterfall of, I don't know, whatever, vapor, mist. That's what I'm trying to do with a lot of this usage of this white pigment ink. It's kind of like it's kind of. I mean, some of it I just want it to look like it's floating, but when it's like coming out from underneath something like, or in between something like this narrow little slot, I want it to almost look like it's like a rolling kind of mist coming in. So I try to add more at the source or entry point, I guess, and then you kind of dissipate it or transition it out a little bit like that. Okay, so it's kind of like coming out of there like that. So you try, this one's a really small area here. I'll just kind of pinch that off and kind of target a smaller area right here. All right, and then let's do the same thing. I'll have to try to get it in behind this, our critter here. Application considerations right here. I can feel this applying kind of not uniformly. And again, it's because I have that alcohol ink, I believe, on there in some of these areas. So it's kind of like grabbing some of the surface and then not applying to the other surface. I think it's where it's more sealed off with the alcohol ink is what I'm guessing. So I'll try to, maybe if I just tap lighter or something like that, maybe it'll apply more uniformly. Maybe if I'm using a little bit more force, it's removing off of the more slippery, sealed off area. That's what I'm guessing. All right, and a little bit at the base of the elk, like so. And we have that. All right. I need to get back to, I was looking at, I don't know, one of the pieces that I haven't sent out because it's so raised up, but I want to get back to experimenting with some of the other glitters and things like that that I was kind of playing around with for a while, but haven't in a while. But yeah, I want more reflectives kind of experimented with. Like, I'd like some down here, like some little twinkly little lights, beyond a paint pen of something that's going to be really reflective. But I think the holographics, well, they're really cool and all. But the problem is when I use like that green holographic down here, like a light green, it's also flashing like, because it's holographic, it's flashing things like red and blue. You know what I mean? It's like got every color of the rainbow in them. It's predominantly whatever color it's supposed to be representing, though. Purple, pink, whatever. But like I said, it's got all the other colors in there too at certain angles. You know what I mean? I don't really want like in this case something like this. I wouldn't want it like a bunch of red or something like that in there. I wouldn't mind it flashing green and yellow or something like that, or maybe even a pale blue because it relates to green, but not like a complementary color, on the opposite of the color wheel. In this scenario, at least, if it's like in sky or something like that, no big deal. Or maybe even water, but like on grass, maybe not. Yeah, that wouldn't be my preference, at least. But a lot of the glitters these days, I found that a lot of them are, they're holographic, I don't know, I guess they're just more exciting that way, or it's like all the glitters are coming out of like one factory or something like that, which wouldn't surprise me. Okay, so adding a little bit more highlighting. We added a little bit on here yesterday, but I think I can use a little bit more in here. Okay, so I just added a little bit, like right around in here. Okay, and this one right here. Go a little bit more on the tops of some of these rocks. In the water. There's not like a really bright light in here, so I'm not going to add too much of this because you wouldn't have this glistening, shimmering water if it's kind of like a duller, background, whatever atmosphere in here. You're not going to get the real flashy light like on a, or like a real foggy day. All right. So, I don't know. I don't know if the changes are subtle or what, but I don't know. For all those little things like that, I just think it adds to for me, it adds to the fun of the piece too, in terms of the process, adding those types of things in here, because I like to see those types of changes. happen when I'm doing these cards. And it's just a fun way to finish them off from a textural standpoint, because I like a lot of texture in my pieces. So softness for me goes a long ways. And plus, as I've always mentioned before, it's contrast. So if you make something softer, it makes other things seem a little bit more crisp, you know. And that's always kind of a fun addition to a piece when you add in that textural whatever extension or range into your pieces. And white pigment ink's an easy way to do that. Okay, let's see. I haven't turned on my computer in 5 years. The cell phone and Kindle. Yeah, a lot of people went to tablets and devices like that. That's one thing that I didn't kind of realize there was something I was doing, and then I think it was like, it occurred to me, I don't know what it was. I was doing one of these videos, and I was just I was thinking of people watching on their computers and larger screens, but then I realized, I think it's because people might be watching on even like phones, like whole videos or something like that. So doing, things like details, with paint pen, you know what I mean? I don't know if people are going to see that on a phone or like on maybe a smaller type of device. But anyway, there was something else too. I forgot what it was. But I try to keep that in mind a little bit more these days. Up to a point. As far as whatever I'm doing down here. All right, so just a few little changes in here, to these, like I said, mid-90s foundations in here. The one that made I don't know, they all made a pretty decent change, but the browns in these trees up here, I think this one was the one that changed the most, probably, because you could see that hue addition in there pretty distinctly with those browns. This one down here, you know what I mean? I didn't want to go like super dark with it, and I don't know, I didn't want to put in some overhanging tree limbs in here. It could. It'll just be used as a framing device or something like that, but I just like the push and pull of this. These are supposed to be more distant trees anyways. And you can do that in the impression themselves if you take that stamp. And if I just dabbed off some of the ink in here, they would just stamp out inherently lighter, and that can give you a little bit of a head start to creating distance in your pieces, or, lighting on your pieces. But you don't have to think about that right off the bat if you don't want to, and you just do it after the fact with the white pigment ink. But you can do those types of things and create that type of atmosphere just by doing selective impressions, I think I called it before, where you do, you just mop off some of the ink off of it. Like if this is going to be in a bank of fog or something like that, I used to always just stamp it out and just, work it with like white pigment ink. But if I know that this is going to be like in some sort of spooky midnight, Halloween scene, and there's going to be a blanket of low-lying fog down here, I know it took me a long time to figure that out, but you just ink it up and just wipe off some of the ink, just that when you stamp it off, it's just lighter down here to begin with. So I don't know. Like I said, it took me a long time to figure that one out. But I'm a slow learner. So anyways, I do those types of things these days. Like on these trees in the background, I think I blotted them off and mopped off some of the bottom portion of those trees, just so it would kind of like look like it's in, that background kind of atmospheric illuminated fog like that. So I don't know, a little bit of planning ahead can save you a little bit of time in the end steps if you're going for a certain type of look. I lost you on the internet last night. I wonder what happened, Jeannie. You turned it off, as I was mentioning, like Linda turned off the sound the other day because she was sick of hearing my voice but she didn't realize that she did it on a subconscious level. And you might have like turned off the video last night, the whole internet or video subconsciously. You've heard too many of the same exact thing 1,000 times in these videos. Another brand, but we can still get a blank pad. Oh, okay. Linda, is that pad a foam pad or is it a felt pad, like a fabric pad? I guess foam is fabric too. Or the ideal thing for me, I think, if you get like Marvy inks, is if you find a blank pad. I think there's different companies that make blank pads, but if you could find a foam one, like a dense foam one, that's probably the best because the Marvy inks are a little bit thinner than other inks out there that are thicker. So the thicker inks, I guess a thick ink could be used on like a pad like this one, like the Memento. It's a fabric. There's some fabric on top. It might be dual layered, with a fabric on top and some other type of material underneath it. But that's when you get those little stringy types of things sometimes on fabric pads. But these inks on these pads are a lot thicker, okay? So foam pads might have a little bit more of a holding power to them, especially if they're nice and dense, than the fabric pad, okay? Especially if you have your pads really inked up pretty juicy. So keep that in mind. I don't have one, but I think those Catherine Pooler ones look like the foam types of materials that I used to see in the Vivid pads. This Vivid pad right here. I've always thought the Marvy pads were the best material, but I don't know. I just haven't used the Vivid pads a lot. Okay, I have several of them, but this Vivid pad, it must have been discontinued 25 years ago, at least. It seems like they were here and gone really fast, but it is still really juicy. And I don't have these. These are just sitting on my shelf. They're not even like in a Ziploc bag or anything like that, but these things are amazing. But I don't know. I saw a photograph of one of those Catherine Pooler ones, and I thought, is that the same kind of dense, kind of foam material that the Vivid pads used? Because it looked like that to me. And I don't know if that's the case there, that would be a good, probably a candidate for Marvy inks. Okay, so the Marvy pads are discontinued, but you can still get a lot of the re-inkers on them. And then you just ink up your blank pads with them. And, that's if you're going to be stamping imagery out with those Marvy inks or colors, okay? If you're just using it to, do some coloring of scenes after you've stamped them out, then I would just leave them in the bottles and just apply a few drops of it onto whatever, types of materials you use to color your scene with sponges, or I use paper towels these days, but, whatever you use for that. So with a quick review, I'm finding most are a sponge foam. Yeah, so if they're nice and dense, Linda, that would be really good. Maybe dense, but not too dense. I don't know. Yeah, but it would be, well, Marvy, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has like a Marvy black re-inker. That's the one that they ran out of first. But if you picked up a few bottles of those, and if your black pad is starting to disintegrate, that would be a good thing to do. I can tell that this pad right here probably doesn't have too much longer to go before I'm gonna have to replace it. So I'm gonna have to pick another black ink. Everyone has their favorite black ink pads for their impressions, it seems. It seems like there was always like four, generally, that people kind of went with historically over the years, when we used to kind of throw that question out there at workshops and demonstrations and retreats or something like that. Um, but yeah, I need something that's going to be nice and really a deep, rich black that will dry fast enough. So there was other ones that are really good out there for that, but they just took a long time to dry. They were really super rich, like the Memories Black. But for me, in my location, it's really deep and black because it's so thick. So it would take a long time for it to dry before I was able to start working on it. So I used to just save that for my foreground imagery. If you're out somewhere and in someplace nice and arid, Arizona, Nevada, whatever, New Mexico, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you don't have a problem with that because they'll dry so much faster. But I don't know. So speaking of that'll be one of those things I'll miss. I think Marvy Black, unless someone else comes out with something like better. I don't know why some company can't just come out with some ink. That's like an ink that if they came out with like 90%, 98%, black or something like that, somewhat thin, so it penetrates and dries really fast. I mean, everyone would buy it because everyone wants like the best black pad to make their impressions with. They would, and word gets around like instantly in this, this hobby because everyone shares that. But I don't know. I don't know why someone can't, they'd just get the Marvy formula and that's all they would need to do, Sukaneko. Their one of their big competitors, or maybe not so much of a big competitor, but I don't know, maybe Marvy wouldn't mind giving them their formula for their black at least, especially if it's going to be an extinct, whatever ink going forward. What do they care if someone else is using it? Yeah, if they can sell the formula or something like that. All right, folks. So a little bit of extra texturing and lighting in here, a little bit of detailing, not too much, but mainly adding the shadows and the white pigment ink to tweak these pieces a little bit better. This one could use a little bit more shading around on the perimeter now that I'm looking at it, but I'll just leave it at that for right now. So I'll probably format these cards. I just got some more 3M spray adhesive, so I have a ton of card formatting to do over the next, I don't know, whatever, couple weeks or whenever I get around to it. And I need to put together a bunch of my reflection cards and horizon cards that I have just kind of loose and I haven't bothered tagging in yet. So anyways, we'll get that done and we'll get the finished pieces posted on the Facebook Stampscapes group. Join the Facebook Stampscapes group if you're on Facebook and you haven't joined in yet. You'll see a lot of awesome pieces by everyone in there. All right, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of night. Thanks for checking out the tweaks. All right. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, everyone.